Greetings, friends. My friend sent me this story in Breitbart. I'm going to comment on it as I read through it and maybe share some other thoughts. The subject is going to be about mass immigration. What is our culture, if it's Canada or another Anglo country? Where do we draw the boundaries? The title of this article is Albanians Protest Potential Migrant Crackdown in London, England. They covered the Churchill statue with Albanian flag. This is from the 13th of November. Thousands of Albanians protested in London on Saturday in response to Home Secretary Suella Braverman characterizing of the migrant crisis in the English Channel as an invasion. As the United Kingdom was in the process of honoring the fallen soldiers in World War I, thousands of Albanians demonstrated in central London, briefly blocking off Westminster Bridge and draping the statue of wartime leader Sir Winston Churchill in the Albanian flag. By the way, I looked up the religious demographics of Albania because I was curious, because this flag, that seems to be a Christian symbol, the double-headed eagle, if I'm not mistaken. A similar symbol was used in Byzantium. It's a symbol that's been around, and I knew that there were Muslims in Albania, and it's about two-thirds, at least geographically, two-thirds Islam or Sunni or different sects of Islam. And then there's a Catholic section in the north of Albania, and then there's some Orthodox areas in the south. But it's definitely a majority Muslim country, so that's something to keep in mind here. The protest was condemned by Brexit leader Nigel Farage, who said, "Remembrance Weekend in London, and Albanians have taken over Westminster Bridge for a protest. This is what our politicians have done to us. These people care nothing for our country or the sacrifices of the past. What is happening to London today is a disgrace," Farage added, in reference to the Albanian flag being tied to the Churchill statue in Parliament Square. So I guess part of the insult here is that they did it, these Albanian protesters did it on Remembrance Day, which we have Remembrance Day in Canada. If you're in the States, I guess they have a different day of the year to honor the fallen of the world wars, but that's basically what it is, I guess, in countries that were part of the British Commonwealth. I guess that's how it works. So my point would be that even if it wasn't on, like, the Remembrance Day thing is throwing salt, but even if they're doing this apart from Remembrance Day, they're affirming that they are an invasion. So if you're calling them an invasion and they're getting upset, well, they're just demonstrating to you that, yeah, well, here we're going to organize, we're going to show our demographic power. And for better or for worse, I mean, you can make the argument of, people should do that or should not, but the reality is that that's showing to the Anglo people, or in this case the people of Britain, that we are here to stay, and we're here to expect more of us to come, and we are Albanians, and we are proud Albanian, maybe nationalists, because if you're flying the flag, and then that's the message there. So anyways, and do they not care for the, well, maybe they don't. Why would they care about the sacrifices of the past? Why would they? That's not necessarily their history. If you're coming here from Somalia, what does Remembrance Day mean to you? Some white man's war from way back when? Why would a Somalian sympathize with a moment of silence for the Canadians who died in the First World War? I mean, maybe if they're educated and they're respectful, maybe they will respect it. But, well, first of all, maybe that won't be the case. But second of all, if they did respect it, what would it really mean for them? It would just be something, I should respect this. But it's not their heritage. Rightfully so. There's nothing wrong with that. So, continuing here, according to local news outlet My London, the Albanian protesters objected to, she called it an invasion. Last month, the government revealed that despite Albania being a safe and peaceful country, why? Because the government revealed that Albania is safe and peaceful. Well, that's nice. Despite this, over 12,000 illegal boat migrants that landed in Britain this year have come from Albania. Of those, approximately 10,000 are said to be military-age males, which I guess the definition of military age is what, between 18 to 45 years old or 18 to 30? There's nothing wrong with using the term military age. With the government estimating that the figure represents 2% of the entire male population between the age of 20 to 40 in the Balkan countries. So they're saying, I don't know if that's true. That's the claim here. 2% of all males of between 20 and 40 from Albania are in Britain. Some Albanians have argued that it is necessary for them to flee from their country due to the high level of corruption. Probably is a corrupt country. Most of the world is very corrupt. But I mean, I guess some countries are more corrupt than others. Maybe it's very, very bad in Albania, but is that a reason that they can flood into another country? I would wager no, it's not automatically a reason. Others have noted that they have no need to flee to the UK from France, where the majority of illegal boat migrants set off from. And then there's this posting from someone called Martin Daubney. I don't know who that is. But one of the things he says is that the Albanians are saying that Britain is racist. No, I don't. That's what he says in this post here. I can't confirm that, but it would not surprise me. That's generally what happens. Like, for example, in Canada, if you said there's too many Syrians coming here, or there's too many Afghanis coming here, or there's too many whatever group. Okay, I'm just saying hypothetically. YouTube, I'm not trying to single out any group here. But I'm saying if you said something like that, then the wider society, all the institutions, if they picked up on this first, then they would call you racist. But if any of this group that you mentioned, if they picked up on it, then they would call you racist. This is what would happen. They would do so like almost like I want to say naturally, but intrinsically. It's a tool that's presented to them from the handlers which let them in here. Maybe the Liberal Party, you could say, or the media, government establishment. It's language which is a tool which even a simple-minded person can pick up on and use because they know it's a word that belongs to the left. Racism, however much you try to use it, if you think you're not on the left, if you think you're not a liberal, no matter how much you try to use racist and fit it in with your worldview, it's always going to be a term of the left. It's been that way from the beginning. And it's anti-white, and that's why they use it. And it's anti-European. That's why they use it. It's anti-Western civilization. That's built into the term itself. I tried to explore different ways that the term can function. Ultimately, it cannot, for practical reasons, function any other way in our society today. So I understand if people use the word sometimes with good faith, but generally it's not a good faith word at all. It's a derogatory word. It's meant to shut down conversation. These people are not open-minded. Anyone using that word, racist, or I can imagine other words that it's not worth me mentioning here on YouTube, but it would just be another word in the same category as racist. But the mere fact that you're using those words shows that you're not really interested in a discussion or in hearing a reasoned argument at all. Iranian heritage British political commentator Mayar Tosi commented that Iranians are not flying the Islamic regime's flags. I don't know why they just brought in Iran here, but I see why these Iranians are flying the Persian flag, because they want a revolution so they could go back home. Albanians claim they're against Albania and then come here to protest UK government and fly Albanian flags. Now this reminds me of when I saw the Iranian liberals at Queen's Park about a month ago, and they were, I guess maybe they were also flying not the Islamic regime's flag. I don't remember, but it looked kind of like a different flag. But either way, they were against the Irani regime, and yet they were angry at the Liberal Party of Canada, the ruling party here, who had let them in, and now they're angry because you have to go and help foment revolution in my home country. And they're all just liberals. Now these Albanians, I don't know if they're liberals, because not all the immigrants become liberals, like global citizens. Like they like the pride flag, they like freedom, and all that. That's not how it always works out with mass immigration. It's a mix. It's a mix. But a lot of these Iranians become these like liberals that are the same in any they look the same from any other country, and they just want women's rights, and they want all this liberalism, which is destroying the West. So they're happy to just continue the revolution. So the common theme here is lack of gratitude, lack of recognition of the country that they're in. And the other side of that is they're just taking advantage of a defeated people, a demoralized people. To some extent, we do deserve the leaders that we have. Successive generations have failed, and this is where we are. So we all share in the blame. We in the home countries, like the people who assimilated to Canada. The protesters also reportedly objected to being perceived as criminals, even though, of course, many of them are criminals. They had placards, some of which said, Albanians are not criminals, we work and pay taxes. Sure, some of them probably do that, but then others are drug dealers. However, at present, Albanians represent the single largest population of foreign-born criminals in British prisons. Isn't that interesting how just some nations aren't equal in different regards? A BBC investigation earlier, well, who can trust the BBC, but they looked at the subject. They found drug gangs from Albania are using migrant camps in France as recruitment hubs, offering to pay for their way to the UK in exchange for agreeing to work in underground criminal networks in Britain. So obviously this story just shows you that Britain is cucked. There's people that stand up for their country, but overall it's a defeated people, just like Canada is defeated. The whole Anglosphere is defeated in a national spirit, in a spiritual sense. Men don't know what to believe in. Men don't believe in anything spiritual or like a historical narrative or mythological narrative. Men don't have anything great like that to believe in. They just believe in themselves and their own individual pursuits of pleasure and happiness. And maybe if they're lucky, they have a family and they can, that becomes something to believe in. But often we can't even support a family, start a family. Our peoples are being snuffed out. So we are defeated people. And then these immigrants come in here and then they don't respect you. They don't respect you at all. We're just an economic zone. We could be conquered, and maybe that's how we deserve to be in this situation. But that doesn't mean the future has to always be this way. Something can be rekindled. But you have to look at the stark reality of the situation. And at that same gathering of the Iranian liberals, I mentioned that one of the leftist speakers who addressed them before they started their march began her speech by acknowledging the land, that this is an indigenous land. And she mentioned 3 or 4 native tribes that had roamed over this realm on the northern shore of Lake Ontario before the Europeans. And she was just saying, we're in Canada here. It's important to acknowledge that it started off well, like, these immigrants here are going to, acknowledge that they're in debt to this Western country, this Western civilization, which allowed them in and already had the prosperity to allow them a good life, or at least the opportunity to get ahead materially and live at a relatively high standard of living materially compared to other countries in the world. So some sense of recognition or acknowledge of that, that's good. That's good. Oh, it started off that way, but then she made no mention of the British or the French. Or no, it was just the indigenous, right? Because the Europeans are bad, white man bad. So the whole thing about how lefties and liberals do this, like we're on this land right now, we're on the whatever land, that those peoples, you can acknowledge them, I guess, but they didn't found this country, they didn't found Canada. They often fought with us, But we traded with them, and they're here, so they were there, and some of their descendants are still alive. So you can have some mentioning of them, but obviously it's just anti-white, it's anti-European. That's kind of the context in which this land acknowledgement, this kind of practice is used. But there's a principle that should be good. There's a principle there that we can extricate, which is that acknowledging that you are living in Canada, for example, this country has accepted you as an immigrant, which offers a better opportunity for, at least materially, to progress. It doesn't matter if it was just English or Scottish. Like, obviously many other groups came, but they all assimilated. They all came to contribute to this inheritance, but it involved adapting to certain facets like the English language and just the way we treat each other, the way we are, basic moral factors, which I don't need to go into here. The founders of this country, they built the roads, they settled the farms, they built the infrastructure that produced a civilization that has now taken you in. And yes, other cultures came and they contributed to this in their own way, but they assimilated, more or less, not completely, but they assimilated. Now that's not the case. No. Now it is truly a multicultural landscape where there could be a good reason to respect the country's heritage, which let you in, but there's practical reasons and incentives not to do that, because the system will reward you for playing the victim card. They'll give you the time of light. The media will sympathize with you. You may get donations. You'll get a sympathetic ear. And you'll be able to use the language like racism and oppression and human rights, and you'll be able to use these largely academic terms that the leftist mainstream establishment has given you. So they're using the whole package, and it's just so cynical. These people don't care about the West at all. They didn't contribute to building it, and they're not going to contribute to continuing Western civilization. There will be something here in Canada 60 years from now. But it won't be Western civilization. It'll be something else, something maybe more Asian. We're in a situation where if you're an English Canadian, you might be in a situation, such as myself, where if you speak another language, not English or French, some other foreign language, you're more likely to meet more people at work. Liberalism is this paradigm we've been in for generations. Like I said, it disables us. Men don't believe anything. Men are also very feminized. We are cut off from our own heritage, and we result in being in a confusing cell of mirrors which just reflects our own individualism back to us. It's the creation of the modern global person, the liberal, detached from any sacred notions about the world. And then we idolize perverted things like sexuality. Yeah, liberalism really just disables our faculty of making the friend-enemy distinction of insider versus outsider. This disabling of the faculty, this disability, was introduced into your society by people that wished you ill. And it was let in by the fault of us. We bought into the lies.